Good evening, everyone. So glad you could join us for our presentation this evening. We have the amazing, excuse me, Bill Allen, who's here with us this evening. So we'll just do our regular intro and then we're going to let Bill take it away. Now, Bill is a superstar presenter. So this is literally one of these great opportunities where we just kind of get to sit back and take as much notes as we can, because I know, Bill, you're going to share a ton of insight and advice for us, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm excited for this. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. If you're just coming in, there's a couple more people joining now. So we have the great fortune this evening. Oh, there we go. You are attending a webinar tonight called "Standing Out from the Crowd: How to Find Quality off-market opportunities in any market." And for those of you who don't know Bill, we'll get into his introduction in just a couple of minutes, but boy, are we ever blessed to have him with us tonight. I'm your host, Elizabeth Kelly, and of course it is Monday evening. So our agenda for this evening, we're going to do a quick welcome and introductions. Then we're just going to let Bill take it and run with it. We're going to do a Q&A period at the end, and then I'll come back in and we'll do a quick webinar wrap up. So Bill, I like to use the Q&A box, which we have the opportunity to do in a webinar. So what I'm going to ask everybody to do is, if you want to participate, or if Bill asks a question, he's looking for feedback, please use the chat box. You can see it'll be right at the bottom. It'll be labeled chat. Make sure you click the drop down and switch to everyone. It's the newest version of Zoom. I think if everyone's downloaded it, should say everyone. Otherwise, Bill and I are the only ones who see it. So if you're participating in the conversation, that's fantastic. We love that. If you have a question specifically for Bill, especially about topics or whatever he's covering, please use the Q&A tab. The challenge is, if Bill isn't able to answer the question right away and the chat box continues, your question will get lost. So we want to make sure that we try our best to get back and answer as many of your questions as we can. And I know I've sat in on Bill's presentations, and I literally have pages of questions because he raises so many amazing points, and you end up with having such incredible insight into situations and opportunities. So please use the chat box for ongoing conversations, and use the drop down change to everyone, and then the Q&A tab for specific questions for Bill. So I'm Elizabeth Kelly. I have the good fortune of being your host this evening, and I'm really grateful to all of you for coming, and especially to Bill for sharing his knowledge and insight and wisdom with us. Now, Bill has a bio. I don't normally read bios, but Bill's is so impressive that I'm going to go ahead and go through it. So, Bill, you are a Navy pilot and a real estate professional. You're also the CEO and owner of 7-Figure Flipping and host of the 7-Figure Flipping podcast. And you lead literally the top house flipping and wholesaling mentoring groups in the world. And I know there's so many of us in Canada who are literally, looking for information, knowledge, insight, and you bring that in absolute spades. Just a few years ago, you were stuck flipping 1 or 2 houses and doing all the work yourself, but you've actually now built a systemized business, and it literally runs without you, which is incredible. And I think what a lot of us are aspiring to. So you have a wholesaling and flipping company, Blackjack Real Estate. You're based out of Nashville, Tennessee. You do upwards of 200 deals a year throughout the Southwest, and you have a staff of 15. So any one of those things would be a tremendous accomplishment, let alone to put all of them together onto your resume. Bill, we can't thank you enough for coming and spending this evening with us.
All right. Is it over to me?
You can be if you'd like.
Yeah, I'm ready. So it's really always embarrassing to hear your resume being read aloud, especially when they're reading it to you. And I don't see anybody else's faces on here. So thank you for that. Ready to go? Can I, if it's okay with, go ahead. All right. If it's okay with you guys that are on the chat, I really thrive off of feedback. And when it's Elizabeth staring at me and me watching the chat, if I say something, if you just put something in there okay, this is good, keep going, or we already know this stuff, and questions along the way, put some questions up there, because what I'd really like to do tonight, there's a lot of things that I've been thinking when Elizabeth and I were talking about what to talk about, I thought probably one of the best things that I could do is bring a marketing perspective to you guys. I bought over 850 houses or so by now, off market. So all of them come directly to seller, off market. And a lot of our people right now are seeing a lot of challenges finding properties. And so what I want to do, if it's okay with you guys, is not go down any road that I've been down before, and just some things that I've been sharing with my mastermind group lately, which is not going to be like send this postcard to this list and go out there and market to these people. But instead, I'd like to go like a couple steps back in time to figure out like why you're doing what you're doing in whether you're marketing directly to sellers or any business. Frankly, if you have another business, it'll be very helpful. Is that okay? Like, Elizabeth, are you okay with that? Like, I think.
Oh, any direction you want to go,
Okay.
Bill. I know you literally have your finger on the challenges that people are facing in their businesses right now. So if you want to share your wisdom and insight, you go nuts.
Okay, good. So, and there's some people in the chat that are saying, go for it. Top Gun, that's funny. Okay. So what I want to do is what I'd like you to leave this presentation. When you leave this presentation, what I really like you to think about is understanding the process of how you can get a deal, right? Because we're all looking for a deal, right? We want a property at a reduced, at a discount, basically, so we can make money. We're running businesses. We want to make money. And so if you can leave here understanding how to market to sellers and think about that specifically for you, then you'll know exactly how to go after them, what to say, things like that. And you'll be able to create your own business and think differently. Most people are just saying, I want the silver bullet. I want the postcard. I want the letter. I want the text message that when I send it, I'm going to get a response. So they just want the easy button, right? So I think I'm actually at one of my mastermind members' house right now, and him and I were talking all day today about this concept because I was listening to him on the phone. He's getting discouraged. He doesn't have as many leads as he had before. He's actually getting on the call already thinking he's not going to get a deal and just have to compete with 50 other people. So he's already behind and so what we did was we backed up and we spent like the whole day talking through all this. So I want to share with you guys what we talked about. So marketing, if you don't think of yourself as a marketing company or a marketing person, this is the first problem. Okay. And so I think real estate investors, we look at I don't care if you're a house flipper. I don't care if you're a developer. I don't care if you flip land. It doesn't matter what you do. I don't care if you're a hard money lender. You have to bring people in the front door. If you're a flipper, it might be leads. It might be working with other wholesalers or agents, but then you're finding money. So you're marketing for money. You're marketing for buyers. You're marketing for contractors. You're marketing for other team members, title companies, all of these kind of things. So everybody is a marketing company. And so what we don't do is we don't do enough talk about this. So the title of this was like, let's go out and find deals in a sea of tons of investors. How can we find off-market opportunities, right? Well, what we have to do is we have to go back to the beginning here. So the first step as a marketer is to figure out who you're talking to. So I need to know exactly who my ideal customer is. And I can use lots of different companies to portray this, but let's just use somebody who's trying to buy off-market properties, right? Because most of you are trying to find deals, right? I see people say, yes, I'm discouraged. Yes, finding deal flow, finding these opportunities. It's really competitive right now. This is what I'm hearing a lot. Your avatar, your customer avatar, the person that you're talking to, is the most important thing to understand before you even start crafting a message or crafting a campaign or understand how to talk to them. So what you need to do is you need to figure out very specifically who to talk to. And the days of pulling like massive lists, and I realize I'm talking to a bunch of Canadians, right? And the Canadian feedback that I get most of the time is, okay, well, we don't have all these fancy like list service providers that you guys have. So we're doing things like every door direct mail, or we're going to like zip codes, or we're mass marketing, right? Well, social media is in Canada. Google is in Canada. There's lots of ways to get in front of customers, right? To figure out and define who we have here. Word of mouth. You can drive around, do driving for dollars. You can knock on doors. There's lots of things that you can do, right? So going back to the avatar is hands down the most important thing that we have to think about. And crafting a different message for different people in today's time is one of the most important things that we can go to. So here's my recommendation. Step one, if you have never done a deal before and you don't know what avatar is going to produce the most, you need to start figuring out what that is. Talk to other people who have data. Talk to somebody who will be willing to share with you. It might be a realtor that says, hey, this zip code or this, I don't, would you guys call them postcodes or zip codes? What's Canada here? Elizabeth, is it a postcode or a zip code?
It's a postal code.
Postal code. Okay, postal code. All right. It's postcodes in the UK too. My wife's from England, so I get that. Okay, so a postal code. So it might be that. It might be a neighborhood. It might be a pocket. It might be different areas. But anytime, I would basically look at this like when I went into new markets, when I expand from the market that I know to the market that I don't know, what I try to do is I try to talk to realtors. I try to talk to other house flippers, wholesalers. I go to meetup groups like this, and I say, hey, where are the best producing areas? Where's the areas to stay away from? Why do you stay away from there? Is it too dangerous? Is it like, what's going on? And I want to really understand what's happening in today's marketplace. So what I listened to on the phone was I listened to my buddy today, and he gets on the call, and this is one of these, he's buying a lead, right? It's Need to Sell My House Fast is a website where you can buy leads. So they go out and they find leads and they aggregate them and they sell them to investors. And I was in the other room, I was eavesdropping on his call, and he already went into it basically like assuming that this is not a deal. The guy was gets on the call and says, how much do you give me for my house? And he immediately was like, oh, well, I don't know. It'd probably be like this range to this range. And it was a 5-minute phone call, and I listened to it, and I was kind of shocked, but his attitude is very much, this guy's not going to, like, all these leads have been bad for me. His belief system is broken. He goes on the call thinking he's not going to get it. And he has already put that person into a box of I'm likely just going to have to compete with 50 other people. He just wants a number. He wants to get off the phone. I was like, well, why did you give him a number? And he said, well, I don't know, because I thought that's what he wanted. And I was like, well, you just gave him exactly what he wanted. He got off the phone. He's never going to call you again. And he tried to turn it into a retail lead at the end. So I'm telling you this story because I want to go back to the avatar piece. But this story just, it opened my eyes to the fact that we are so beat up and we're so used to saying it's a tough market. There's too much competition. There's all these things. We're almost going into it assuming that we're not going to do anything. I see a lot of the stuff in the chat here. People are looking for their first deal, but they're saying, oh yeah, it's really competitive. I can't find anything. All of these negative thoughts are being put into your belief system. And what's happening is if you don't think you're going to find a deal, you're not. So you need to change that from the beginning. You need to go into everything saying, so I asked him, I said, how much time did you have for that call? He said, I don't know, like 5 or 10 minutes. I said, well, why'd you even make the call if you only had 5 or 10 minutes? What if it was a deal? You need to talk to that person for 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes. I mean, you went into it basically assuming that it's not going to be a deal. You projected exactly what's going to happen and it started happening. And then you just fed it. What you should have done is once he said, how much do you want for your house? Your next response, or how much are you going to give me for your house? Next response is, I have no idea. I don't know anything about your house. I don't know anything about you. I mean, I don't just make it a habit of getting on the phone and seeing an address and making an offer. I mean, this is probably one of your biggest assets, isn't it? He's like, yeah, it is. Because he said, well, the guy said he didn't have a lot of time because he was in his car sitting outside of work. And I said, well, you should have just made a connection and then asked for more time because your process is this. And definitely not give him a number because now you're not going to talk again. So all of this to say that in today's market right now, what's happening is we're basically just trying to like drive really expensive leads to us, getting on the phone and basically assuming that we're not going to have a deal. And of course we get what we project and he's not. And instead we're not thinking about why we do things and how we go through the process to the point where we are very strategic and tactical about everything that we do. So his conversation could have very easily gone, oh, you know what? I just don't give offers over the phone. If that's what you're looking for, we're probably not the right fit. Have you ever like the really good looking girl in high school or the good looking guy in high school? And if they came up to you and started talking to you and you were like, you know what? I'm really just not interested. Like they become way more interested in you when you're not interested in them, right? They're like, what's wrong with me? How is this person not interested? Everybody else is hitting on me, but this person isn't. That's very intriguing. So actually, if he didn't make an offer, he's probably in a better position. So all of that to say that when we go back to the avatar, we really need to think about what's going on in their head. This avatar, this guy that came in, right? This guy, he is out shopping for offers. right? He's just out looking for numbers. Like he's basically going out to all investors saying, collecting offers, and I'm going to take the highest offer. I could care less about who else. Like he's not really ready to sell his house. He's not distressed. He's none of these things that we're looking for, right? And granted, he's buying this lead, so he definitely needs to get on the call, but he could have tried to figure out how to build some rapport and basically just how to say, yeah, we're not really a good fit to work together, better than here's my range. If you're interested in that, maybe call me back. Or I actually have a realtor that you could work with if you want to sell retail. That's how the call ended. And I was like, he's never going to call back to work with your wife as a retail agent. I mean, he's collecting offers and he just got your range. He got exactly what he wanted out of you and he used you. And so if we go back to that avatar piece and say, who are we looking for? Like, who are we really looking for? Like, we're really looking for distress. We're really looking for a certain person. And then each person has a different message that will actually connect with them. And so what we want to do is we want to back up a couple steps to try to figure out what's actually going on in this person's life. So you can basically look at lots of different ways that sellers become distressed, right? You have people that are out of money. Like they're out of money and they're trading equity for ease and speed of transaction. That's pretty much what everybody's doing. As a wholesaler or flipper, a wholesaler, you're like a pawn shop, right? People are walking into the pawn shop with their grandmother's diamond ring, knowing good and well that they're not going to get fair market value for it. They're going to get a discount, but they're going to walk away with cash right away, right? And as a flipper, you can portray the same thing, but you're going to actually buy it, own it, clean it up, and then sell it for retail. So if we really understand what we do, we understand who are the people that are going to walk into a pawn shop. Right? I'm not going to walk into a pawn shop unless I'm in a very, very bad situation. But at the time of my life right now, I know enough to be able to sell my things on the internet or get close to market value for things, right? I know realtors to sell my house. So who's going to walk into a pawn shop? That's kind of where we need to back up to, right? Is who is going to work with us? And if you've never done a deal, you have to understand that you absolutely have to put yourself in this person's shoes. You have to walk a mile in their shoes, right? If you can't figure out how to think like them, then you can't figure out how to talk to them. It's like speaking a different language. The things that you want. So a lot of times, I remember when I got started, and I realize I'm on a little bit of a soapbox here, and I will tie it back here, I promise, okay? But this is the most important thing to understand. I tell you, if we could spend 2 hours on this, I would. And I don't ever get this much time to talk to my people even about this stuff. And these are ideas that are going on in my head right now about exactly how I think we can do a lot more business. So the people that are in distress, we don't understand it. I remember when I got started, I didn't understand why anybody would sell their house for 50 cents on the dollar. I actually didn't believe that they would. And because I didn't believe that they would, every time I walked in, I wasn't confident that I could even portray the fact that it was a good idea for them to do in their position. And I never really lead the witness. But what I want to do is I want to go in there and provide an opportunity for them and say, hey, here's a lifeline. And if you're interested in taking me up on this lifeline, then I can help you. And when I started doing that and I started seeing, like, I do a deal and do another deal, what I noticed is that I started helping people and I started seeing people at the closing table and I started understanding their life and what was going on. And the more couches I sat on, the more people I talked to, I could start understanding what position they were in. And when I saw that, I could start seeing patterns. And so what we have to do is we have to understand that there's a pattern in this business. And those people are somewhere, they live somewhere, they shop somewhere, they kind of all run in similar areas. And so what we need to do is we need to figure out how to get in front of them. And so there's lots of different ways that you can skin this cat. One, and I would say not sending the same message to a wide number of avatars. This is what I see as the biggest problem. We send the same card, the same message, the same text, the same everything to a big bulk list of people or a big postal code, or all of it is the same. And that's where we'll lose the volume. Wholesalers, the big iBuyers, the people that have unlimited funds, this is where they can just blanket the world, but we can beat them by being very targeted and very specific with our messaging. So if you think about it, there's lots of different groups of people. You have the absentee landlord who is tired and beat up with their tenants. Maybe they've had evictions. Maybe people aren't paying. Maybe they're beating up the property. Maybe they have something going on in their life, right? So an absentee owner is a potential person that could have some stress and distress in their life. And so the interesting thing that I took from, so I have I'm in a marketing mastermind. The guy who runs his name is Russell Brunson. Chet Holmes wrote a book called The Ultimate Sales Machine. And he had this kind of concept of groups of people that have congregated your customers before, right? And Russell took it a step further and called it the Dream 100. So he makes a list of 100 people that have already congregated your people, right? So one example here, if we're talking about absentee landlords, tired landlords, people like that, is where do these people congregate? Where do they hang out? What do they do? It's possible that they would be on a call like this or a RIA meeting, but typically those landlords are looking to do more business, right? They want more deals. They're not ready to offload their stuff. And if they were going to a RIA meeting, they probably want to offload their stuff for a little bit more money. So where do those people hang out? Do they buy in their own personal name or do they buy in an LLC? What does this person look like? So property managers would be somebody that would be on my Dream 100 for something like this. If I was looking for a bunch of people that were absentee landlords that might be tired. I'll use an example. I have a house in Memphis, Tennessee that I bought from a turnkey provider. And when I just signed the paperwork today to sell it. I bought it for like $60,000 3 or 4 years ago. It's been rented out since then. And they found it, they flipped it, they sold it to me. I sent them an email. I said, hey, I'm looking to sell this property. I want to offload my single family stuff and just put all my money in apartments and other things I'm doing. And they said, well, we'll make you an offer. Cash offer, no hassle, no problem. Anything like that. And I said, all right, what is it? They said 75,000. I said, is that the best you can do? He said, we can do 77. I said, all right, I'll take it. So I didn't go look at a real estate agent. I didn't do all these other things. And so now if they weren't interested in buying it, they might have somebody else who could help me. Title companies know these people, right? So who knows other kind of absentee landlords, people that are buying, and where do they hang out? What do they look like? Do they buy in their personal name? Like I said, do they buy in an LLC? A lot of times you'll have one-off landlords that buy in their personal name, maybe 1-2 houses, or they lived in it, then they moved, right? And now they're frustrated because it's a rental that they never expected to get because it was a forced rental because their job moved them somewhere else. So understanding that and finding out where those people are. I don't know if you guys have a lot of public records that you can go check and pull, but trying to think like what I want to get across is not show you how to do this, but take you a couple steps back to say, why do we do this? So an absentee landlord is one. Divorces, right? Divorce is an area that we get deals from. Probate, people passing away. So let's use the Dream 100 concept on divorce. Who knows about a divorce before we do as investors of people that are getting divorced trying to sell their house, like a realtor would know? Who would know before? And I realize I'm asking a rhetorical question because I don't get a lot of feedback, but maybe in the chat you can say, who would be on my Dream 100 if I was looking for people that were getting a divorce? Exactly. Patricia? Great. Lawyers, the hairdresser. Exactly. See, okay, you're getting it. Like that's what I love. You're actually starting to understand this. The hairdresser is actually kind of a funny comment, but you might actually be onto something. Okay. Divorce attorneys, lawyers. So I don't know how to say your name. Kai, maybe, the hairdresser. So great, like relationship counselor. There you go. So some things like that. Let's talk about what about somebody who was getting older and later in life, and maybe we're leading up to probate, or we have something that's going through probate. Somebody passed away. What about probate? What would we look for on probate if we wanted to create like a Dream 100 list of where these people hang out or who might know about this before we do? Any guesses there? Funeral homes, good one. I'm sure they'll keep coming. Nursing care, another good one. Lawyers don't share such details that easy, I guess. Yeah, that's true. House cleaners, okay, go to probate court hearings. So as we get there, nurse or healthcare. So what if we built a relationship with some of these people up front? There's 2 ways that Russell talks about how we can get in front of these people. One way is to buy our way in, and that's what we typically do, right? We typically buy our way in with marketing dollars, with online advertising, SEO, mail, pay-per-click stuff, cold calling, text messaging, all those kind of things, right? The other way is to work our way in. Where else do these people hang out? There are so many Facebook groups and online communities right now for everything. There are like sub-threads in different websites and blogs and all these areas where people hang out. So someone is congregating your customers right now, right? And how can you figure out how to build a relationship potentially with them so that they start knowing you as the person to go to, right? So there's a buy your way in, which is what we are usually talking about, and you can still do with these kind of concepts. And there's a work your way in concept as well. And so you could go all the way to the point where, hey, I bought. The cool thing about us is we have a bunch of data, right? So I bought over 800 houses in the past few years, and I have a lot of data. So I kind of track, and you should absolutely track this if you don't already, is what is their pain point? What is the story going on? So you have actual data that you can see. Of the 800 houses, actually 400 of them were absentee landlords. 100 were probate. 60 of these were inheritance. And you can start seeing trends, right? And you can start looking at data. And if you only bought one house from probate every 3 years, it's probably not an area to dump a ton of your money and time in, right? And so we did a lot of this data analysis to try to understand what this is. And so if you've never done a deal before, my advice would be to own one of these. And so let's go back to the avatar for a second. We've got lots of different people. We've got, and instead of thinking about the person, what I would think about is the problem. Like, what is the typical problem? Because if we just go to absentee landlord, just the fact that you're an absentee landlord doesn't mean that you're distressed or interested in selling. Now, if you're an absentee landlord with a problem, then you are. And that problem, and the problem also has to be solved by potentially selling your property, right? And so what's going on in that person's head? Maybe it's you can pull as much data as possible from an eviction court. And the other one that I think is really beneficial is, I assume you guys have it there, but code violations here in the US is very big. They like tag properties. So if you can get in and go upstream, right? Not wait till a code violation list goes out, but what if you can build a relationship with some code violation officers or the department there, so that they know that when they have all they want the fines to be paid and they want the place to be cleaned up. They don't want to go out there over and over and over again looking for the owner of the property. The code violation officers actually have a problem that you can solve. So remember, we're in the business of solving problems. So if you think about marketing to a code violation officer, it might be the fact that, hey, I can actually make your life and your job a lot easier by just calling me and letting me try to find the seller of the home, potentially buy the property and clean it up. And then next thing you know, you're getting flooded with leads from code violation officer who doesn't want to go out there on a Saturday. And if you can buy 3 houses that month, then they're going to give you 10 more the next month. So, and next thing you know, you are killing it with this niche, right? And so I want you, again, I'm giving you guys some ideas, but I want you to think about this. And I hear all the time, it's like, oh, this doesn't work in Canada. Well, now I'm giving you a concept, not an actual like tactic thing that we use in the US, but giving you a concept to think differently than everybody else out there. And I realize there's 90 people on here, so you're all going to be thinking similarly. However, one person sends a message and 89 or 90 people on here will hear very different things for yourself, right? What are you the best in the world at? So delinquent property taxes was asked. Absolutely. This is a great one. For sure. So property taxes is definitely one that we see happening. And we don't do like the 1 year property tax delinquency here is a property pre-inspector would be great. Anybody who can tag things, like a lot of times the utility companies will actually shut things off. So there's like a water shut off and meters getting locked and stuff like that. Like this is very, very beneficial if you can figure out how to build relationships. And again, this takes some time, right? It takes time. So I look at it 2 ways. There's time or money. So usually I talk to a room full of people that don't have a lot of money, and they want to hustle in the beginning to get things going. But even all of these concepts can be used if you have money and start marketing directly to these people, right? And just figure out where they hang out. And then we haven't even gotten to crafting the message yet. So we're just still kind of in the avatar coming up with ideas and things like that. So I think the question came up about property taxes. That is a good one. And you can kind of look back and see if you have multiple years of property tax delinquencies. Maybe there's somebody so I just joined the Chamber of Commerce where I am. I don't know what the equivalent would be for you guys, but there are actually city meetings and board elected officials and things like that. And all they want is the city to do better. They want to clean up the city and the town and the place. And if you can figure out how to get in there and network with those people, I will tell you right now, there is a lot of help that's being passed across the tables there to say, oh, this guy buys properties just like this. Like, this house is completely overgrown. Nobody knows where they live there, who lives there, but I know about this property. I don't know what to do. I got a message the other day from a guy. He's like, you bought the farm behind your house. I want to buy the farm next to my house. It's like 20 acres. I don't know who owns it. And I was like, oh, here, I'll tell you in 5 seconds. Here, this is the person who owns it. It's the developer. I don't know that he wants to sell it or if they're going to continue developing there, but here's his name, here's his email, here's his phone number, go to town. If you find it, great. He's like, how do you know how to do that? I was like, this is what I do for a living. And it's about finding people, solving problems. And you know, that guy's going to come back to me and say, I don't know how to talk to him. I don't know how to negotiate this. And I'm going to say, well, if you want me to negotiate it, I'll do it. But now we have to exchange some value here. Right. And so the avatars of these people, HVAC, I love that. Like, who is out there all the time? So we had a campaign one time where we took I had a mailman in my area in Pensacola, Florida, and the mailman knows where every vacant property is. It's the property that mail is not being pulled out of the box, and they have to put a vacant tag in there. So we got to the point where I had such a great relationship with my mailman. He started saying, hey, you know what? I actually know of a lot of these different places. And I said, all right, well, how can we legally compensate you for leads if I close deals and things like that? So who's the Amazon driver in your area? Who's the guy who's going to every house all the time? Other contractors that are out running around. You said HVAC technicians. Great. It's great. Like, okay, so hopefully I can see you guys are thinking differently, even though I can't see your heads shaking. I can't see your facial expressions. I can see through the comments that a lot of people are starting to think a little bit differently about this. Okay, so now we have these areas. And what I would do is I would create different avatars and different buckets of places that could theoretically be an area for me to start fishing, right? I love to fish. I think of these as different ponds. They're stocked with fish. The fish hang out in a certain area, right? And so what I want to do is, instead of casting a giant net that's going to be really expensive over the entire lake, I want to really target the area where all the fish hang out, or the majority of them, the 80% rule, right? I want to get 80% of the results with my efforts, and I only want to do 20% of the work. So now I've got these avatars. I have these people and this problem that I'm trying to solve, right? They have a problem, and let's use inheritance. We'll use inheritance. Some people are inheriting houses, and I know that and so a lot of times, I'll let you guys in on something that we do. A lot of times an inheritance is split shares, right? So once the transfer happens, you see split shares. So you see, like, somebody owns a third of the home, right? So we're able to pull that deed and see that it's like half ownership, or a third, or it's 1/8. And so what that does for us is it triggers, hey, something happened. There's been a transfer of ownership. It's usually a really small amount of money that it transfers. So it's like $10 in most of our cities. And it's just it's a quitclaim deed here in the US. So there's probably some transfer that happens for you guys in Canada. It's some legal document that gets transferred from the previous owner to the family. And this usually doesn't go through probate. So they have something set up with in their will or in their trust where it transfers over, right? And so we wouldn't see it in probate, but we see it as a third. This has been very successful for us. And so we'll pull that data and we'll know where the address is. And that message is very different, right? That message is not need to sell your house fast, having problems with tenants. Are you doing a bunch of evictions? Although it's an absentee owner, right? They don't live at the house. This message is very much like, hey, and so what's the problem that they're having? Let me back up a little bit before we talk about messaging. So the problem that they're having is, I just inherited a house in a place that I don't live. I don't know anything about being a landlord. I haven't been to this house in 5 years. I don't even want it. My brother thinks he knows what he's doing, and says he's gonna flip it because he watches a bunch of TV shows. But he doesn't know what he's doing, and I don't trust him. And my other sister she just doesn't care what we do. But I'm the older sister, so I'm the one who gets the mail on this stuff. And I don't want to deal with it. And I don't want to deal with my brother and sister either. I just want my money. Right? So what is the thing that's actually there that the problem is, right? And so if you can put yourself in that person's shoes and just make up the story that could potentially be happening. And in marketing, what we want to do is, and Dan Kennedy, if you guys don't know who Dan Kennedy is, he's a huge marketer I'm at my friend's house and I'm reading one of his books because he had it on the shelf. It's called The Ultimate Sales Letter. It's awesome. Attract new customers and boost your sales daily. He wrote like 40 books. The No BS Guide, if you ever seen any of the No BS guides to direct mail marketing, No BS Guide to customer referrals and retention, like 40 books, right? Magnetic Marketing is probably one of my favorite. So, and a lot of these concepts are in that book, Magnetic Marketing by Dan Kennedy. He's been doing this. Yeah, he is the GOAT. You're right. So he talks about entering the conversation that's already happening in your customer's head. So you have to enter the conversation. The best thing about marketing is you can't make up problems for them. Like if you're trying to make up problems in your marketing, it's not going to hit them, right? Think about what keeps them up at night. Think about the thing that they're thinking about when they're stressed out with it, right? And then enter that conversation as the solution that's already going on in their head. And so Elizabeth entered the conversation that was going in your head at some point to get you here. You are her avatar of this group. She brings somebody in. She creates a crafting message, a title and a headline, right? And an image and a story. And she gets you to come here. You have something that's going on in your life that you think that this webinar right now could potentially be the solution. And you're giving us 2 hours of your time, which is probably the most valuable thing that we could ever ask for. Not your money, not your credit card information, none of that stuff. 2 hours of your time. And there's nearly 100 people on here. So if you think about it, you have been marketed to on a regular basis. How do you respond? What do you think when you see that? What goes on in your head, right? What happens to you? Do you get excited? Do you get nervous? Do you sign up right away? So how does this person react? And again, let me go back to the thing is you have to walk a mile in those people's shoes. If you spend 10 times the amount of time on the pre-work and creation of a marketing piece and a piece of material for what you're doing, you will have 100 times the results. Most of the time what we do is we just press a button and say, this worked for somebody else. I'm just going to send it out. This YouTube video on marketing told me to do this, so I'm just going to do that. And we don't even think about it. We don't think about it. So, and I realize I am, especially with not a lot of people's faces here, I feel like I am definitely on a soapbox, and I'm just going to continue because this is really fun for me. And I hope it's hitting for you guys. Like somebody said, great content. I've had success with this, but I'm fortunate to have realtor access through my good friend and realtor. So, okay, good. People like it. Okay, I'm going to keep going. So now we're at a point, this sister, right? I'm gonna go back to this sister who inherited a house, right? Her brother thinks he can flip it. Her other sister just wants to get it sold, and she just doesn't want to deal with it, right? So now my message needs to talk to this sister about this problem. You inherited a house, and what you need to do in your messaging is, depending on what you're going to send and how you're going to send it, if it's a conversation, the first thing that you want to do is you want to make them feel like they're not the only ones. Okay. You want them to feel like you understand, you feel them, and they're not the only ones that have gone through this, and you've helped other people through this before. And that you're there to help, even if that means not buying their house. Okay. And that's how you have to show up. Like that guy that my friend was talking to today. If he went in and said, look, I help people. That's what I do. I don't always buy the houses that people call me about, but I always help them and point them in the right direction. It sounds like you just want the most money for your house and you're really not even ready to sell it. Is that fair? And just shut up and listen to what he says. Who knows what the guy would have said, but he didn't. He gave him a range of money, gave him exactly what he wanted. And he never found out why he was actually calling or putting his information in all over the internet to get that lead sold to him. And we don't take the time to actually just look at another human being on the other side and say, I want to help you. And ultimately, that's what we're doing, right? So now when we come back to marketing, we know that that's the solution. And we have the solution to everybody's problem if they're willing to take it. And all we can do is reach the olive branch out, right? And just say, is this the solution that you need right now? And if not right now, maybe later. So No, I cannot teach that concept to millennials. And there's probably a lot of millennials on this call. And to be perfectly honest, we have definitely like put certain people in a box, right? And realize that's an avatar, right? You're talking about an avatar, that you're making an assumption about how they react and respond. And I have been incredibly impressed by a lot of millennials. Like, they are really hardworking sometimes. And when they're passionate about something, they get way more passionate than we do about stuff. And so I've seen that, and you just have to find the ones that are passionate about the things that are going to help you do the things that you want to do. So if you find something that they're passionate in, they will crush all of us, and they will. You'll see. They are going to be a generation that is amazing. They just haven't all figured that out yet. And the ones that are on this call have, and it's really cool. So, but they go harder in the paint than anybody I've ever seen. If you watch basketball, you understand that reference. So, okay, so we're going back to the message. Remember, there's a problem, and the avatar of the customer has a problem that's going on in their life, and you want to enter the conversation that's already happening in their head. You can't create the conversation. So, anytime I build a marketing piece, and granted, now what I'm doing a lot more of is I'm trying to figure out how to perfect this message to teach it to my people. And I think I did it recently at a RIA meeting that we started in Nashville, and it hit really, really hard. And people are starting to recraft their basically coming back and saying, why are we spending $30,000 a month on marketing pieces when we potentially could spend $5 and just a little bit more time and be more snipers right now than shotgun blasts? And I think that's where we need to go right now, because the market is crazy. People are paying more than we can pay. And so what we need to do is we need to figure out how to even be more genuine, how to even be more helpful, how to even go the extra mile, and figure out what we're best in the world at. Like, what do we actually, okay, what do you got to add value to a transaction, right? If you don't add value to the transaction, why should you make money? If I'm going to pay $200,000 for a house and you're going to pay $170,000, and I can do the same thing that you can do, why would anybody take $170,000? Makes no sense. So you got to figure your unique value proposition, your UVP. What is your unique value proposition to this transaction? And it has to be everywhere. I asked a realtor the other day. She came up on our stage and said, I give him a 30-second commercial. And she said, hey, I'm a realtor with Keller Williams up in this area of Tennessee, and I would love to, do business with you or anybody you know. And I said, okay, well, why should we do business with you and not the other 1,000 realtors that are in that area? Like, what do you do that you're best in the world at? And she's like, I like to help other businesses and help them do more business. I was like, you're not selling me. Like, what do you do that you're the best in the world at? And I realized I put her on the spot. She was incredibly embarrassed, and she probably wishes that she never stood up on the stage. But she said, you know what, I help other businesses, and I want them to be successful, and I highlight other businesses, and I make these videos. And I said, all right. I talked to her afterwards, and I said, look, you've got to figure out what you do. And she told me about the videos that she makes and the businesses that she highlights. And she said, well, what other people don't know how to make video and edit video and all of these things. And my husband and I, we do all that. And we highlight a business in the area and we feature them. And then we promote it on our social media and other social media. And then they end up sharing it on their social media. And I said, okay, now we're talking. Like, what if you could fill up the dining room for a restaurant on a night that they don't have a lot of business? What if you could figure out how to become the person in that community that made videos for other business to the point that the other businesses are asking for you to come to their place to make videos and sell out their stuff? Now you make those videos, you build a following, you help that other business, and you can put your 10-second commercial on the front and the back in your marketing. And next thing you know, they're driving leads and traffic to your business. And so frankly, you could do that same thing as an investor if you were good with digital marketing, or you understood this concept that I'm talking about, and you could take it to a business and say, who's the business's avatar? How can I get people to fill the business? And then how can I be the person that hey, I get up before that event and I share what I do? Elizabeth, you get more business working with people that come to this RIA group and things like that. Do Do you do JV deals with them? Do you lend money, or is like, have you ever gotten any business from doing this?
From doing webinars?
Yeah, webinars, any being out there in the community, like building an audience and stuff like that.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely.
Okay.
It gives me the opportunity as well to figure out who I want to do business with.
Sure. So if you go out there and you provide value to the marketplace, next thing you know, people want to reciprocate on value. So the most important thing, and what you would do is you figure out who you want to do business with, who you want to bring on something like this, who's not going to disrupt the entire chat and be crazy and talk, like drop their products in there and they get kicked off, right? Yeah. And so figuring out, how to like, you are going to attract people who are like you and you want to do business with and things like this. So, okay, we got the avatar. We kind of understand that. We talked a little bit about the Dream 100. I introduced it to you guys, right? And you started thinking about lawyers and Uber drivers and FedEx people and mailmen. And I saw some stuff about like attorneys, and somebody said, it just made me realize I know one. My friend's dad passed. It's been empty since October. I should know what's going on. Janice, you should know what's going on, and you should absolutely tell your friend that you can help. So you understand that concept. And now we're talking about market to message match, like Dan Kennedy says. We have a market, and the market is a place. The market is a place where your avatars hang out. So we talked about Facebook groups. We talked about different meetups. We talked about lawyers' offices. We talked about, if you're looking for money, just take it on down to the country club or the sailing club or whatever you guys got over there. Like, who's got money? People at really nice restaurants. The valets know the people that have a bunch of money at those restaurants. In your community, other like cigar bars, things like that, like different things that people are going to go to with money. Maybe the Rolex shop. That guy knows, the guy who's the salesperson there, he knows who's on the list for Rolexes and things like that. Try to think about that stuff. Who already has congregated your customer, and how can you get in front of them, and then craft a message that matches that market and the problem that they're having, that it's going through their head, right? And this is all done before anything happens. Like, all the work happens for you to start like crafting this whole idea and concept. And so each avatar, by the way, should get a different message, because the market to message match is hands down the most important thing in all this. That thing that I pulled from Dan Kennedy is the number one thing that created all of this like disruption in my head of what I've always been doing. So each market, each place that has the avatar that you're looking for has a different message that will attract. And he talks about this in magnetic marketing, right? We're trying to attract that customer with our message. So our message has to attract that customer. When Elizabeth talked about me, she said, we have the biggest wholesaling and house flipping groups, right? If you are not a wholesaler and house flipper on this call, you likely immediately turned yourself off to me and said, this guy only knows wholesaling and house flipping, right? Because that's the message that was being sent to you. And if you're a developer, or you flip land, or you do loans, or you're a realtor, or who knows what else, you're probably like, oh, this guy's going to just be another wholesaler I've heard of. And you might already have an idea of what a wholesaler is like, and it's probably not like me. Maybe you had a bad experience or something like that. So that message to the market is great if we're in a room full of wholesalers and house flippers, right? But if I go to a multifamily conference, like I was just a speaker at a multifamily concert about conference about raising money, and they introduce me as a wholesaler and flipper who runs a wholesaling company, half the room's going to get up and walk out, be like, this is perfect time to take a break, get a drink of water, go network with somebody at the bar, right? So it's a market to message match is the most important thing. So why are we sending the exact same message to a blanket of 50,000 people in my company, right? And we're not crafting a message that actually hits them with the conversation that's happening in their head. Okay, so that's the beginning of this. Then the next thing that we did that I've been working on recently, and by the way, you guys are getting the freshest content that I have in the world. And so this isn't all done, but this is exactly what I'm doing to kind of pivot our marketing, our whole marketing in 5 companies. 5 companies, we're taking this to move all of our marketing in different directions. The next step in all of this is to figure out, if you're doing mail or direct response marketing, is to figure out how to get this message to the decision maker and the person in the house. Okay. So this is the most important thing, because people in my community right now are talking about their response rate, having their response rate cut in half and things like that. And by cut in half, I'm talking about like from half of 1% to 1/4%. It's like, you know what? We make a lot of assumptions on the front end. And some of those assumptions are that people are actually seeing our stuff. They're actually seeing our marketing material. So the next thing I asked is let's walk a mile in these people's shoes. Is the decision maker typically the husband, the wife, the nanny, the maid? Who is it? Who knows? And so now we're at a point where I'm trying to figure out who actually opens the mailbox and gets the mail and what they do with it. Because I'd say the majority of the time, hopefully this doesn't come off wrong, but a lot of times the husband is in charge of the finances. Let's just say 7 times out of 10. And it's not always true, but it's probably a majority. I think we can all agree. If you think I'm wrong, just throw it in the chat. I could be way off. I mean, I don't know. The Canadians could be like 9 out of 10 women control the finances in their house. But let's actually change it. Let's completely change this. Let's change it from man and woman to the breadwinner. Let's change it to the breadwinner of the house, because then we're probably 9 out of 10. So let's just call it the breadwinner, because it could be the husband or the wife then. And then I'm probably hated a lot less on the call. So we have 9 out of 10. Let's say 9 out of 10 times is the breadwinner. So where is the breadwinner physically when the mail comes? Can anybody in the chat tell me where the breadwinner usually is? I said, more than not, women control the decision making. You are exactly right, Diana. That's true. So, okay, Dave said at work. So the breadwinner is not standing at the door waiting for the mailman to put the mail in the mailbox, and somebody else is pulling it out of the mailbox. Could be, I don't know, could be the non-breadwinner, right? It could be some help, could be, who knows, right? And so they are probably just taking the junk mail and tossing it and then going through it. So that message might not hit with the non-breadwinner, who is solely responsible for the finances and is really distressed about problems that are going on, things like that, right? So what we started thinking about is, how can we craft a message that, and this came from Dan Kennedy as well. He was telling a story about a restaurant that used his magnetic marketing concept that totally like blew up their sales in their restaurant. And they crafted a message that was so interesting that whoever got the mail wanted to tell the other person about it. And it was like a conversation piece at dinner table or with the neighbors. Like the neighbors are even talking about it. People are seeing the guy in the grocery store and pointing at him because his picture was on the mail piece. And so it got me really interested to think about this. And so I'll tell the story about this company because I think we could learn something from it, and maybe somebody here is be really smart to take it and run with it. So this story goes, it was an Italian restaurant, and they sent a letter in the beginning, and I think I'm getting this I'll get this pretty close. I might be a little off if anybody knows the story from Dan. So it was an Italian restaurant. They sent a letter that said and I'm definitely going to butcher the actual text, but it was like to a husband who may be sleeping on the couch in the next 2 weeks, from the chief Cupid officer or chief relationship officer of this Italian restaurant, and then his name. And it's like, I know what it's like to have to go to work, to do all these things, and look, this was probably like 30 years ago or 20 years ago. So it definitely is male, female structure here. It didn't say two breadwinner of the house. And so and then it says, I know that it's difficult to work, to come home to the kids, to plan and also plan a date night and find time to date your spouse and call the restaurant and buy flowers and get a gift and all this stuff and have a great date night. So what we've done is we put together this amazing package where all you have to do is call this phone number, ask for this package, and we will take care of the flowers. We'll take care of the chocolate. We'll take care of the gift. We'll have the 3-course dinner. We'll have it all set up. All you have to do is come in and say your name. And additionally, we've done some research, and today 45 at that time, maybe 45% of marriages end in divorce, and 9 times out of 10, the spouse's answer is they just don't take care of me as much as I need to be taken care of. And it was like, so just call this number, ask for this code, and sign this so-and-so. So what he said was, if the husband opens that letter, they're reading it, and they might be interested in taking him up on that if they're finding that they don't actually have that time. If the wife opens it, she's going to read it, and she's going to fold it back up, put it back in the envelope, and put it right on his desk, like on top of all the other mail, to say he needs to do this, right? And so I would say there's a very high likelihood that whoever opens the mail piece is actually going to, like, the decision maker that makes that decision of that mail piece is actually going to see it, because that person is not going to throw it out unless they're like, oh, this is the load of crap for some reason. And so the people who need that help are getting it, right? So then everybody would call, say the code, and they're pre-buying this thing. So this guy got a bunch of revenue in, and then they would take them off the mail list. And then they mail out 2 weeks later, they mail out a postcard this time that said something like, and I'm definitely butchering the text, but like to guy who is probably now sleeping on the couch because you didn't listen to me on the first mailer, from Chief Relationship Officer. It's a lot cheaper to come to our restaurant than it is to hire a divorce attorney. I'd really like to help you here. And it goes on to like say, hey, we would love to have you. But so it's interesting. It might seem to be a little agitative, but it's also very much like funny and whimsical and interesting, and like a story goes on. Even if you're a happily married man and woman, you're going to take this thing to your spouse and be like, can you believe what this guy is sending us now? Like, this is so interesting. And it also creates a story and a message, and they know who this guy is, right? So being able to get it from one person to the other is important. And do you think the women and the men in the neighborhood aren't talking to their friends and their neighbors all around the community right now? Today, that would be, a picture of it would be shared inside of our HOA Facebook group in our community, and everybody would see it. It would be free marketing, and it would be viral, and other people would be able to see it for free, right? So it's so interesting. And if anybody owns a Italian restaurant, they might be taking this and using it right now to blow up their business. So then the third mailer was like, he put 3 pennies on it. If I was going to do it, I'd probably put 2 pennies, like tape 2 pennies to it. So it's a lumpy mail and it's a little heavy, right? So make sure they open it. And then what they did was they included the previous mail pieces. And I would have done too. And I would have said, just my 2 cents. I really think that you should listen to me before things really blow up. And I mean, we're all here, we have it all, and we'd really love to help you. And in case you missed it, attached are the other 2 mailers that I sent you that I still haven't heard from you on. I would really love to have the opportunity to help strengthen your relationship, something like that. So, I mean, just think about the copy and the messaging can all be tweaked to whatever you do or whatever you want to do. But what you need to think about is, how do I create a message and something so compelling that people want to talk about it and share it between each other? So that's the concept that we're working on right now. And I'm sharing with you like very beta stuff because I'm like nerding out over this stuff right now. And this is what's currently on my mind. But the title of this was how to stand out in a crowd. And this is how you stand out in a crowd in marketing. You become something, you become someone. Like everybody saw that guy, and I think they like dressed him in like a Cupid outfit or something like crazy like that. So when they would see him at the grocery store and the restaurant and stuff like that, then people would recognize him and point at him and laugh. And like he got so much feedback that he was like, this is crazy. So this magnetic marketing concept is basically what we use right now, trying to get people to come to us, to attract our dream customers, right? How do we attract the people that we want to work with? And for us, unfortunately, in our business, and look, if you're not a wholesaler, you're not looking for off-market opportunities here. This is a great way to attract lenders, to attract buyers if you're a wholesaler. Like how do you attract the right people that you want to work with as a buyer if you're a wholesaler? How do you attract real estate agents and contractors and other people to work with if you're a house flipper? How do you attract the right lenders? Yeah, JV partners. Exactly, Rachel. All of these things. Like how do we figure out how to do that? And so this is stuff that I still think that the real estate world is a little bit in the Stone Age when it comes to marketing and thinking about marketing. Like we don't actually take the time to develop a marketing concept and launch it in a strategy. We just kind of do what everybody else is doing and expect different results or better results or even the same results sometimes. So we have to look at our unique value proposition. What can we bring to the marketplace? Where's our avatar hangout? What are some strategic ways and ways, especially for you guys in Canada, that might not be able to pull like very detailed targeted lists like us in some areas with some of the services that we have available to us. But we have to do a little bit more work, right? If we're willing to do a little bit more work, then then we can take that extra step that somebody else is going to quit at. And so I know that there's not a lot of other people doing this in my world. The digital marketers are doing it. The people who have big marketing companies and see themselves as marketers. And so if I can give you anything on this call, it would be the fact that if you don't look at yourself as a marketer and you don't read marketing books and you don't study marketing, you're going to delay your success in anything that you do. I think it is way more important than I ever gave it credit for when I got started. And I would say I was in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing that I was told to do when I got started. And I was able to then start thinking for myself instead of just accepting. And I followed one person. And I still do. I follow one person and I eat their stuff up. And when they tell me to do something and give me stuff like these kind of ideas and concepts, I then take it and say, okay, how does this apply to what I do? How does it apply to my business? How does it apply to my location? How does it apply to my avatar? Because their avatar is not my avatar. Like their people, the people that will hear their voice and will go to them are not the people that will hear my voice and come to me. And so I need to talk my way, be myself, talk to my people, and figure out how to take all this other information and basically like kind of condense it down into what I do. And I think the more you do that, I definitely could get on here and share like a presentation for you and say, this is what we do. Here's our business model. You can take it and use some of this stuff. I really think that if we start teaching people more of why we do things, then they can start thinking for themselves while still executing the tactics and strategies that are working today. But think about why we do it. That way, when the feedback loop comes and we get a feedback loop of, I only got 2 calls and I spent $10,000, we start saying like, why did that happen? What should I have done? What could I tweak? What's really going on? And we start being able to pivot ourselves without just crashing and burning, basically. So Priscilla asked who the one amazing person is. That the one amazing person that I'm following right now? It's the guy I mentioned, Russell. So and Dan Kennedy. So he bought Dan Kennedy's company recently, which brought Dan Kennedy into a much bigger spotlight of mine. And the reason I'm at a friend's house is tomorrow I go to a mastermind meeting in Cancun where I get to present in front of his audience. And I would say for you guys, I think, let's see, where are we now? We've got the avatar. We've got the kind of Dream 100, where to find these folks. We've got that market, right? We got the market to message match. And then once we send the message, we really need to figure out how to get them to see it. Like, how do we get our person to see that message? How do we come up with this unique value proposition or this unique thing that, like, honestly, I get a lot of text messages from people. I own houses, I foreclosed on houses, I own or finance houses, I do all that stuff. So my name's on deeds, right, around the country. And people send me text messages and they all say the same thing. Like, they're not interesting at all. And granted, I'm not a motivated seller, and some of these houses I don't even own for the last 2 years. But they don't say anything unique. There's not anything that's actually makes me interested in responding. It's like, hey, I'm interested in your property. Could I give you a cash offer on it? It's like, I got 10 of those text messages yesterday. Like, why don't you craft a message that would hit me in the story that's already happening in my head potentially, and at least try to insert yourself in that problem. Okay. Patricia said, can you give a few more samples of interesting messages? So let's talk about this. Okay. Let's talk about this text messaging stuff. Is there text messaging in Canada? Is there, like, are you guys like totally strict? And I know you guys get text messages, of course.
No, we definitely get text messages. I mean, there's a little bit less access to information. What I want to encourage people to do, though, is instead of saying, well, that doesn't work in Canada, the better question to ask yourself is, how can I get this information?
Yep.
We need to ask ourselves better questions in order to level up.
Yeah, I get so many times people are like, oh, you got like a US group, and that, like, does this stuff work in Canada? Like, well, like the exact tactic or software that we might be using might not, but yeah, the whole concept works. That's why I want to teach more of the why we do things. Like, I'm not, to be perfectly honest, you're on this call with me, right? And I'm not in the trenches. Like, I'm not sitting on couches of sellers. I'm not answering my phones anymore. Like, I'm not, and it's been like 5 years since I have. But I'll tell you what, I can listen to his phone call today, right upstairs, and give him something that would change his business forever if he listened to it. It's strictly concept and strategy. Being on the phone with a seller is it's sales. It's in relationships. That's it. So, these kind of things will work. So some more interesting sample messages. So let's talk about that text message, right? So they know I'm an absentee landlord. They know I owned a property. They know how long I've owned it potentially. And they are trying to send out bulk messages. But what I would do is I would have a group of people that I know fit in my bucket, right? My market. And I have a message that's crafted for that market. So I'm making assumptions of what I think their problem is and what's going on in their head, like what's keeping them up at night. So I would think about, like, when do they think about this? Like, when in the day do they have this problem? Is it during the day when they are at work? Is it in the morning? Is it at night? When is it? And I would send the message then, at the time where it's most likely that they have the problem. So when they see it, they're like, oh man, somebody is reading my mind. Do you guys know when you Google something and then you're on Facebook and there's an ad for it right away? Like, that's what they're doing. That is good marketing, right? Or you're on your phone talking about that thing and then it's on your Facebook ad. You're like, how did that even happen? Like, that's when it's fresh in your mind. You're thinking about it and then you start seeing it everywhere. And next thing you know, the reticular activating system takes over and you're just like, all right, I'll buy it. And so same thing, like, when are they having that problem? And then my message would be something like, hey, I bet, like, you know what? I just bought a house from somebody whose tenants tore it up for years. And they were so happy that they sent me this message and like maybe a little testimonial. And then I might say, do you have tenants in your house at 123 Main Street? Question mark. See what happens. Instead of saying, I want to give you cash for your house. Like, so does everybody else. Like, I got tenant. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's one idea. Maybe it's the goal of your message is to start a conversation, not finish a conversation. Okay. It's to start the conversation. My friend upstairs had a 5-minute conversation and he finished the conversation that he didn't even really start. He doesn't know what the guy's deal is. He doesn't know what the problem is. He doesn't know why he put his information on the internet, why he even answered his call when it was an unknown number. Like, we don't know what's happening. How can we even make an offer if we don't know what's going on? How can I solve your problem? I don't even know what your problem is. This number won't solve your problem. But once you accept the fact that money will not solve their problem, you'll get to a place of having a conversation with another human being where you actually are intentionally trying to solve their problem.
I think that's really how you set yourself apart as a wholesaler too. Like, I've seen some of the posts, some of the people, like, I'm sure most of us are familiar with Luke Boyron, who is a hugely successful wholesaler here in Canada. And I think it's in no small part to being part of your group as well. But you've seen people, in various groups who really attacked wholesalers. And what it shows is that A, people don't understand why people would want a wholesaler, and B, people don't understand that wholesalers are helping people. And when you focus on helping people first, when, if someone says, or someone's not in a situation where a wholesaler can help them or a private sale would help them, linking them up with a realtor is really the right thing to do. And doing what's right in any given situation tends to bring you much more business than just trying to make money from one transaction.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, so I watched Luke. I remember meeting him a couple of years ago at our event, Flip Packing Live. And he just when he understood that it was possible and he found a way, we were definitely a part of it. But I mean, this guy's a driven rock star entrepreneur that
he's a phenom.
He would have done it without us. It just would have taken longer, in my opinion. And maybe not, like, at some point we just need somebody to remove the glass ceiling that's above our head and take the governor off and just let us run. And I think that's what our group does for a lot of people. Is it's inside of there, but they don't believe it yet. And once they believe it, it's like gone. Right. And so that's what happened for me. I was like a closet entrepreneur, had no idea that it was inside of me. But when I look back, all the signs are there from when I was a little kid. Almost, I got kicked out of middle school because I was selling candy in front of the school before school. Like, we'd buy it, break it up, like not for resale packages, that you see. We'd resell them in front of school, and it was fine until I actually hired a friend of mine to work the other door, and then he was working the other door, and I was working my door, and I gave him a commission on everything he sold. And then it got a little bit too big and too crazy, and the middle school didn't like that and called my parents in and said, "We got a problem here." So it was there. I was always trying to turn a dollar into multiple dollars. You know what I love is that there's somebody in the chat that's marketing themselves at the time right now where we're talking about this, right? This story, right? So it's interesting. I saw your comment, stop marketing yourself now. Man, I was going off on like a rant there for a second. So I was just saying, like, it was interesting to see that on a conversation where we're talking about marketing, because like Elizabeth has congregated the customers that we talked about, right? Like these dream customers for somebody. And they're like, oh, you know what? This is the perfect place for me to put my information to market to these customers. But this is that, like, I put together events where we have 1,000 people on a call and I'll have somebody market their life insurance product. They'll just put a link to it. And like, it's the easiest way to get kicked off a call and never come back and just say, like, that's very bad business. Like, there is a better way to do all of this stuff. And granted, I don't want to call this person out because they might just be like, hey, well, I thought I was adding value by saying that I have deals, right? And I want to build my buyers list. But if that's a place, like I have events where people can do a 30-second commercial. Like, I give them the opportunity, like, I want you to build your buyers list. This is not that event, right? This is not why Elizabeth puts this together. So understanding that, like, when we're thinking about marketing, we're thinking about all this stuff, like, it's really important to understand what we're doing. Like I'm giving a presentation here. At no time am I selling something to you guys. But I'm delivering as much content and value that I can to you. And I know that the person that needs to hear my voice will hear my voice. And eventually they will come look for something. They'll come find me. They'll follow me somewhere. And who knows? I'm going to go speak to 500 people next week. And they're all entrepreneurs. And I'm not going to put my logo or sell anything to them. I'm going to teach them about hiring and how you build a rock star team. And I know that the people who are like, I want to go deeper, will do that. So I would say the biggest thing that all of you can do is provide as much value as possible to the audience that you're in, the place that you're in. Then it will be reciprocated in spades. Like if you're constantly asking for something or wanting something or trying to get something out of everything and everyone will see through you. You will not make it. And I've seen those people fizzle out so fast. The cool thing that I saw with Luke specifically was he wanted everyone around him to win.
Yeah. He
wanted to win, but he wants everyone else to win with him. And that's what explodes. And it was really interesting to watch. And honestly, always positive. Like always positive. Like the mindset piece, it's really incredible. And then even the cool thing about this is we have somebody sharing about a buyer's list in the comments, and we're sitting here talking about another wholesaler in the area that now you're sharing his name, and people are going to go look him up and probably jump on his buyer's list, and he's not even here. Right. And that's how you market, and that's how you build a brand. And that's how you build something that can continue to operate when you're not there.
I think who you surround yourself with is incredibly important too, because for myself as a coach, as a real estate professional, I like doing business with people like Luke who have ethics and integrity and who feel the same way as I do about the importance of providing value and good information. And that's why, you're a great fit for Luke and for me too, because it really is about the quality of the relationships and the value that we can provide. And people like that will tend to gravitate towards each other. So if that's who you are, then look for other people like that and become part of their network too.
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing that I've learned is I'll always try to go find somebody who has, I don't know if what I want is the right thing, but has achieved the success and has a life that's worth emulating. And you will attract people with the same values and characteristics that you have. Like people will see that, right? And so the community, like I was looking for a mastermind group. I was looking for a very high level mastermind group for myself for the last 2 years. 2 years I was looking. And I had my credit card. I was ready to buy the right one. And I looked at a bunch of them, got on calls, checked them out. And most of them were like guys wearing suits, drinking a lot, and I don't know what else they were doing at night after the events, but it wasn't the things that I like to do after the events at night. And it just wasn't my scene. It just wasn't. I mean, it's a lot of people talking about how much money they make, the kind of cars that they drive, it's just, I'm really like a t-shirt, shorts, and sandals kind of guy who just, I want to, and a very family, more like wholesome kind of lifestyle. Right. And by no means am I perfect. I don't have everything figured out at all. But I'm working on that. And I'm looking for other people who are working on that, who have kids, who have a spouse, like they want to be married. They're not like, they're working on their relationship. They're constantly trying to get better. And they're also vulnerable and open with a lot of their failures and a lot of their struggles. And it's not fake Facebook famous and stuff like that, right? The highlight reel. And so I went looking for that, and there was like some people that it was obviously not the case. Like on paper they had, or on social media, they have this amazing business, but behind the scenes they're dying inside, and they're just not willing to share it. And so for 2 years, I was like, I can't find my people. I can't find my tribe. I can't find my people. I mean, I found him, but he wouldn't open his mastermind group. So finally he opened his mastermind group, and I just waited 2 years. So I waited long enough, I guess. So I would say to everybody out there, like, and I say this to everyone, it's like, if you want to drive fancy cars and wear suits and go out, like go drinking at night, that's fine. Like, I don't have a problem with that. Go ahead. There's a place for you, for sure. And you just got to find your people. And that could be Like there's people out there for you, right? But I will say integrity and ethics, that is the most important thing. And I'm sure those guys and gals that are in these other groups, they have ethics and standards and morals and things like that. And it's just, they just didn't fit my, like, I just don't want to, I wouldn't want to go to that event every 3 months, you know? So, yeah, I think authenticity is important. I think you need to really relate to the people that you're working with, that you're talking to, whether it's the contract, like, don't just rock up, give your contractors a check and leave. Like, every conversation is a conversation, and hire people that have the same values and characteristics as you, that aren't going to screw you over. Like Myron Golden's a guy who sells from stage, and he says you attract what you are. So if you're constantly having trouble hiring and finding people that will work for you and take care of you and take care of your company and your money and treat your house as well, like, a lot of times what we need to do is we need to look inward. We need to look in the mirror sometimes, because you're attracting what you are. Like, we usually get what we tolerate a lot of times.
I love that. Did everybody catch that one? We get what we tolerate. We teach people how to treat us.
Yeah, exactly. And you're, all right. We talked about marketing. We talked about standing out in the crowd. And I think you got to bring your values. And somebody mentioned authenticity and make sure they're talking about stuff like that, vulnerability. And if you bring that into your business, it's gonna be really important. Like, I'll say, I remember we lost $70,000 on a house. We were flipping this house. It was a luxury house in Pensacola. It's like top end of the market. And we lost 70 grand on it. I had two lenders. I had a first position lender and a second position lender on that house. And I probably paid like $50,000 in interest on the house. And they never knew. For 2 years, they didn't know that we lost $70,000 in the house. They got paid back their principal and all their interest, and we lost 70 grand. I mean, our company was doing like 150,000 a month in profit. So, you know, it was a bad month. I ended up losing money as a business owner, but we started making it up, right? So we were able to, it wasn't our only house that we were doing. So it was a big push for me to say, you know, hey, volume also helps with problems, which is a totally different presentation. But when you do that, I started telling that story and talked about the house we lost $70,000 on, the house we lost $50,000, the house we lost 15 on, and say, hey, everything I touch doesn't turn to gold, like people try to say. And my lenders found out about that, and they were like, you lost $70,000 on this house that we made $50,000 on? And I was like, yeah, I did. Like, and we didn't know for 2 years. I was like, no, and you'll never know. And because they kept investing with me. They still invest with me. One of them is in my mastermind group right now, and another one has probably close to $1 million with us right now in multiple different apartment buildings and other things. And he will trust me because of that. And when I started sharing the struggles and sharing the problems and issues and things like that, it allowed me to attract the other people who are interested in being vulnerable and authentic and real. And I'll say that will be the same for you. I wouldn't say, like, as a business owner, go tell your staff right now, like, all the problems that are going on in your life. But I would say it's okay to not be perfect. It really is okay to not be perfect and not win all the time, and share some of your struggles. So
I think the biggest thing that comes out of that too is, what do you do with that information? Like, I did rent to owns. I did 6 rent to owns in New Brunswick one year, St. John, New Brunswick. And I lost money on pretty much every one of them because I picked the wrong market. I didn't know enough to match my strategy with the market. And A, I never made that mistake again. But B, you know, as a real estate investor, as a coach and a trainer, I tell people the mistakes I made so they can learn from it, so they don't make the same mistakes either. And I think a lot of it becomes, what did you learn, and how do you make sure you don't repeat that?
Yeah. Rachel said, trying to find your people is tough. Yeah. You know, so I think if you, maybe we can, can I go somewhere different with this for a second? Okay. So social media and, is really, really powerful. And a lot of us are scared to use it because we haven't made it, right? We haven't made it. We haven't become successful. And we don't want to talk about what we're doing until we become successful. And so it's kind of backwards. Like we're not willing to share what we're going through, our struggles, our vulnerability, all that stuff, while we're doing it. And so one big push that I made, like a couple of years ago, and you guys have probably seen it. We had like this money Ration challenge, and a lot of Canadians did it, right? And are still doing it. And so, and there was a part of that where that was to go live on social media for 30 days in a row. And inside of that was to unveil your like secret identity, the fact that you want to flip houses, or you are flipping houses, or you're wholesaling, or whatever you're doing. You're a real estate investor, and you become the real estate investor before you've become the real estate investor. So nobody's going to lend you money or accept your opportunity when it comes to investing with you if they don't know what you're doing. And the person that's out there has no idea, you don't know has money, or you don't know has a deal. Like the fact that you have this audience that you've built, whether it's on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, I don't know, whatever else the kids are doing, YouTube. And you're not talking about it on there like the TV show that it is, that other people are interested in, is a big problem. And most people say, I don't want, I saw some fake it till you make it. People talk about stuff like that. It's like, I just helped a friend of mine. She wants to build this agricultural neighborhood. So it's a neighborhood. It's a development that has 10 to 20 acres of land that has farming and animals and a farm to table restaurant and stuff like that in it. Right. So it's like, 200 acres she wants and about 200 houses on there. And I said, you need to launch a podcast today, right now, about what you want to do. Follow me along with the journey and start bringing people in to start listening to you and hearing your voice right now, and what you're doing, like document the journey of this. She's a highly successful house flipper and wholesaler. And she's like, I don't know, like who's going to listen? It's like, nobody's going to listen in the beginning. Me and maybe like 10 or 20 other people. But that's why you shouldn't care that you're documenting and publishing and things like that in the beginning, because nobody's going to listen and watch. And eventually people will listen and watch, and they'll go back to the beginning of the story and start listening to it. And they'll follow it. Right. And eventually thousands of people, or hundreds of thousands, who knows, millions of people, but you don't want to wait until you're successful to start documenting that, because like, when you, and I usually do an exercise when we talk about this. I did a presentation. I've done this presentation one time, and I love it. And it's like, when you think about a show that you've watched, a series, things like that, I would say probably none of the people on this call, if I asked you to throw out series of TV shows, that none of you probably watched the first episode when it was first live, 10 years ago. Maybe Game of Thrones would be one. My wife watches it all the time. You probably didn't watch series 1, episode 1, right? But you probably heard about it from a friend and went back and said, oh, I'm going to watch one episode. Oh, this is really cool. I'm going to go back to the beginning. I'm going to watch it, and then watch it over and over again. And Nasir said A-Team. All right. You definitely dated me, but I watch A-Team. I love A-Team, but I did not watch season 1, episode 1 of the A-Team. I didn't. But I go back and watch it now because it's awesome. B.A. Baracus is like the best. And so Adam, you're right. Some people are there. Those are the early adopters. Those are the people you watch Yellowstone. Yellowstone's pretty new. And now you're in a time where like new seasons are launching. So, I mean, I definitely would go back to like Friends or Seinfeld or something like that, or some older shows to think about that. Maybe The Office. I did this exercise. Somebody said The Office. There was like 80 people in the room, and 2 people said, I watched the first episode of Office. And I was like, that's even better, actually. That even shows it even more, that the fact that there were diehard fans in the room that watched The Office from season 1. Other people are like, I waited till it was completely over, and nope, my friend would not shut up about it. And so I went back and watched it, and I loved it, and I watched them all. And somebody else said, tried to watch that, but I hate that show. I said, this is exactly it. Like, this is exactly what we're talking about, right? We're creating this story to let people in on the story, and it will resonate with somebody, and other people will be. Your marketing is just as important to attract your ideal customer as it is to repel the person that you don't want to work with. Okay. So it's just as important to attract the person that you want to work with than it is to repel the person that you don't. So our events, we put on events. I am going to talk about God at my event. If somebody's there that does not want to hear that and is completely offended by that, then they will very easily like self-select them out. And it's not like you have to believe in God, you have to believe what I believe, but that we are a faith-based group of people that all kind of are, and we have people that don't go to church, for sure. And by no means am I treating a mastermind group like trying to convert people to believe in God. However, there's going to be talk and conversations about that in the group, different times, belief, spirituality, things like that. If they don't like that, then immediately at the event, they will say, this is not the group for me, right? It's just as much to attract our people to hear our voice than it is for people who are not interested. The same thing goes for the fact that like we have kids, like there's not a lot of cuss words and foul language. I want a 10-year-old to be able, I want a parent to be able to bring their 10-year-old in the audience to the event and not feel like they can't bring them there because there's a bunch of F-bombs being dropped on stage. And so I had a guy who was going to speak on stage this year who I know has very foul language. And I told him ahead of time, hey, let me just tell you what this group is and what this group isn't. And here's the playbook. You can agree to play by the playbook, or you can disagree and you can actually piss off everybody in the audience. And he didn't say a single cuss word from stage. And I was pretty shocked because they flow pretty freely from him. So he took it and it was amazing. So your message is really important. Your voice, like, it's really important to find it, to find your voice, to go out and publish, to do things so that people will hear you. And over time, like my friend who's doing the Agrihood podcast, she's great. And she will eventually find her exact story, her exact avatar. She'll find her message. Like when I started doing the podcast, it's a totally different person than it is now. And just this, I couldn't show up to a call and do this, even a year ago on this topic. And so you'll find your voice, you'll figure out what it is. So it's really important though, to use that platform to share what you're doing, because you never know. The woman or gentleman who said, I had a friend whose dad died who has a house, and I should figure out what's going on with that. If you were talking about what you do, I guarantee that they would be coming to you. Like that's free marketing channel. That's a channel that you're not using. That's 100% free. That's not even gonna take a lot of time. So if you're not publishing today, then please publish tomorrow. And I would say, if anything, can find a platform, not a platform that you think you should publish on, but the one that you use and then that you can be consistent on. Find the one that you use that you like, that you can be consistent on. So if don't start a podcast if you don't listen to podcasts and you hate podcasts. Don't go live on Facebook for 30 days if you don't even know how to log into Facebook or you don't know how it works or check it. And you hate it because you won't be consistent. Find the one that you're consistent in and then figure out how to branch out. I use Facebook a lot. I use the podcast. I'm now going really deep into YouTube to learn it, to understand it, to see, like my son's watching it all the time now. So I watch him. I watch what he does. I watch my son. He uses YouTube. I see what he clicks, what he presses, what he likes, what he doesn't like, and how the user experience is for a kid who loves YouTube. Like he loves it. He wants to be a YouTuber when he grows up. That's a thing now, by the way. And so, so for you, I would say find the platform that you use. Maybe it's LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, but I don't even really know what it's for and how to use it. People send me like stupid messages all the time, like buy my thing, click this. You want to come work for my company, stuff like that. So, so those are some things that I would say. Patricia said, I think it's called Building the Agrihood, if you're interested in that one. So see, she got some free publicity here too.
Can I ask, Bill, because you've done a fantastic job about talking about, marketing and being our unique selves. If we take it that one step further, and we've done really well with our marketing, and I know that 7-Figure Flipping does an amazing job of pulling together all the different aspects of building, flipping business, wholesaling business. Let's say we get someone on the phone or we're sitting in front of someone in person. How does the conversation go in a way that doesn't feel salesy and that is more reflective of us and who we are? Because that's what a lot of us fall back into is, we read these sales and advertising and negotiation books and they're like, oh, this is the script that we have to follow. How do we throw out that script and have that honest conversation that will get us to the place where we're actually able to help people?
What do you mean by that?
Well, anytime you sit down in front of someone, a lot of times they're going to have their guard up and they're going to have a preconceived idea of who you are, right? So how do you begin to start building that relationship and sharing who you are and what you're about in a way that's going to open up the dialogue and enable you to have a conversation about what somebody is honestly, genuinely looking for, or how you can really help someone with a need that's not just what they say to the world. Does that make sense? You following me now?
Yeah. Why do you feel like that's a problem?
Which?
That this is happening in the marketplace.
I think it's just a lot of, where investors struggle. Like, you've done a great job showing us the marketing, and people sort of periodically in the chat have said, this is awesome. What's next? How do I have that conversation? And I'm specifically saying, how can we have that honest conversation and be really authentic about what is our unique proposition? How do we open that dialogue, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Okay, Elizabeth, I'm just going to say right now, I'm sorry that I just did that to you. So I just asked you two very open-ended questions. And do you guys in the audience, like in the webinar, see how much information that I got about the problem and what she was trying to get across and solve? So the first thing I said was, what do you mean by that? And the second thing I said is, why do you think that's a problem? And then she was kind of confused about even why I was asking that. I was trying to figure out a question that I could ask to get her to continue to talk about the problem, the issue, what she feels, all of that stuff. Did you hear all the words that she was saying? Like, I feel like this, it's kind of like this, I think that this is the problem. I think that they see this. So those two, my favorite question to ask anyone is, what do you mean by that? And it is the absolute game changer. And I'll tell you that it's really hard for me to do on a call like this because I've been talking for an hour and a half straight. But have you guys ever had a conversation with somebody? It was probably at a party and they talked for like 2 hours to you and you said like 2 words or 3 words, or you just nodded and they just talked the whole time. And at the end of the night, they were like, oh my gosh, like you were my favorite person at the party. Like I had such a great conversation with you. It was amazing. Like I absolutely love you. And then they went home and they talked to their spouse about you. Like, this is my favorite person. I love this person. And you didn't say anything. People want to be heard. And so my problem is I never shut up. And it's pretty evident here for an hour and a half. I haven't even said, okay, do you guys have questions? Or maybe I should stop talking. But that's my problem. That's one of my problems is figuring out how to listen more and how to actively listen. But if I go in there knowing that I'm going to help somebody, I'm going to help solve their problem, I'm going to listen to them and I'm going to say, what I'm hearing is this. It sounds like this. Why do you feel that way? What happened there? And I'm going to ask very open-ended questions. I'm just going to listen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to listen for that thing. I'm going to go as deep into each of these pieces. And I'm not the best salesperson. I'm okay, but there's people that are way better than me. And I'm going to go down these holes. I'm going to go down and I'm going to dig into like multiple levels of why until I get to a point that might be too painful to keep going. And I've gotten enough information and I'm going to come back up and I'm going to go to the next thing. And so I don't love scripts. I never have. I just know that the key is like finding this bridge. They're on one side of the river, right? You're on the other side of the river. Like ideal situation is on the other side of the river, and you need to be able to build a bridge across the river with them, not for them, but with them, so that you can take them from where they are to where they want to be using your solution. Right. And so I think we just listen, like really honestly, just listen to them. And you have to be really good at asking questions and being curious, like being really curious. And I'll be honest, this works with your staff and your team. And what I'm not, a lot of times I politic and position for my way. And I'm not curious about why somebody feels a certain way. Like why, and put myself in their shoes. Remember, you've got to walk a mile in their shoes. You've got to figure out, like, we don't know what their problems are and we've never been in their problems, but we have to let them know that they're not the only person who's going through that. We have to let them know that we can help them. And we have to give them the opportunity to make the choice to work with us. And I would say, to answer your 7-figure flipping does not do a very good job of marketing. It's we're okay, but we have a massive, massive way to go. And we all do. It is the hardest thing. I mean, we talked about a lot here, but to nail that, like, that's where business grows and blows up. If we can get the market to message match, game over. Like, game over. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know, guys. What do you think? Do you have more questions of Bill? Do you want Bill to dig a little deeper into that? I feel like you've just literally provided so much awesome info, Bill, that people are a little bit kind of processing.
Adam said, and which questions to ask maybe in order to start helping solve their problems, like sell their home. I would say the biggest thing that I try to do in a conversation like that, especially in the beginning, like on the phone, is I really try, a lot of times I'll try to kind of push them away. Like, the questions I used to ask are similar to, like, why would, it sounds like a great house. Why would you want to sell a house like that? What's going on that makes you, like, why did you call me? So a lot of times people with my marketing, I'm like, hey, it sounds like your business is rocking and rolling. What do you need a mastermind group for? Sounds like you got it all figured out. Oh, I don't have it all figured out. No way. Not even close. Like, I want them to talk me into it. Like, hey, why wouldn't you just list it on the MLS? It sounds like when they talk to you about, like, how great their rental property is, like, they're calling you and they're trying to sell their house and how awesome it is, right? Oh, my tenants pay every month. The rental property is great. Like, oh no, it doesn't need any work. It's beautiful. It's awesome. Well, I mean, it sounds great. Why don't you just keep collecting rent? It sounds like a great deal. Why are you calling me? So I like to start there, because I want to throw them off their guard a little bit most of the time and just kind of see, like, what are they thinking? Well, I don't know. You sent me the letter. So you're the big bad investor. I just want to see what I can get. Okay. So, but I mean, if I gave you the number that you were looking for, would you sell it? And I would just kind of keep going to ask them different questions. Cheryl asked something really smart. If you're genuine, does that make it easier to enter into conversation? Cheryl, let me ask you, if you think that I've been genuine on this call, do you feel like you could talk to me easier than you would talk to somebody who maybe came on and put up a bunch of PowerPoint slides and just talked at you for an hour about how awesome they were and how a great strategy would be doing exactly what they've done their entire career and how you can duplicate it, and then I sold you something at the end? I would argue that if somebody's genuine and they're themselves, then it is a lot easier to open up to them. And I would say most of the time we're just really nervous when we go in there, and I am too. Like, I'm nervous every time I'm on a sales call or anything, I'm nervous. But if I go into that call, like, needing the sale or expecting the sale, that's the problem. That's what makes me nervous. If I go in there with no expectation of anything, and I just want to help someone, it's not a sales call anymore. It's like a support call. And maybe you just need to frame it in your head a little bit different.
You know what I love? I love the fact that you fly planes, and you talked about being nervous on a sales call.
Oh yeah.
Like,
yeah,
legit,
sure.
You do some really scary stuff on a day-to-day basis. And to hear that you get a little bit nervous for sales calls, that kind of, then it's okay for us to feel that same way too.
it's absolutely okay for all of you to feel that way. Like it's not normal to do something that you haven't done before. It's like a muscle that you have to work over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And we'll never get comfortable. I go on stage and speak in front of people. I'm nervous before all of that.
And comfort, I think, leads a bit to complacency.
Hmm.
And it's like you talked about with 7-figure flipping, where you're like, we have a long way to go. Yeah, but the fact that you believe you have a long way to grow means that you'll keep on growing, and you won't hit that complacency point where you think you've been there and you've done it all and you have it all, and there's nothing more worth doing or worth enjoying or worth striving for.
Yeah, comfort's tough. Comfort is dangerous.
Overrated.
Oh, very much. I mean, I don't know. I could spend 20 minutes talking about comfort. That word drives me a little bit nuts. Like, when you're comfortable, you're totally complacent, and you will be left in the dust. You always need to be growing. Priscilla said something I thought was really powerful. She said, I think this info is so good. Now the hard part is practicing it and working on these skills. So, if you think of this, like everything that you do as like a thermostat, and where you got a thermostat that's set at a certain temperature, right? You guys have thermostats in Canada, right? Call them thermostats.
Yeah. No, okay. We're just all igloos, no temperature control at all.
Oh, that's funny. All right. So you got like, I don't know. Are you guys on Fahrenheit or Celsius? Are you on Celsius?
Well, it depends, inside or outside.
All right. So yeah. Okay. This is very much like a British conversation here. Whatever we want, whatever we decide. Yeah, we're miles per hour, but we're also metric. So I'm not going to use temperature. So I don't know. Maybe we'll use like 18. Maybe you got it on 18 degrees Celsius, right? Inside, and you want to turn it up, you turn it up. Well, what's going to happen is inherently something's going to kick in where it's going to turn on the air conditioning, and it's going to want to cool you back down, because that's who you are. And it could be money. It could be the number of houses that you do. It could lots of things. This happens in everything that we do. So if you could just think of like slowly moving this up, like just slowly move that thermostat up to the point where it's just, you're resetting that thermostat, and you're doing work on a regular basis, regular, consistent habits. Like you're creating habits around this, where it's part of your daily practice of doing something. And eventually becomes a habit, and it becomes really easy. So like, I really love to eat sugar and desserts. I love desserts. Like I love it. And I also have been like on a 3.5-year weight loss journey now for me. Like, and I know that when I get into a routine, like I have one dessert, I will eat like 20 more, but sometimes that night, but like I will want one every night forever. Right. I just want a dessert. But if I can go a couple days without eating one, or just eating like I eat these yogurt bars, these chocolate chip cookie dough yogurt bars. And like when I'm out traveling like this, it kills me because I don't have one. But I have that like hunger for it. So if I eat that and I stop eating them, I don't think about it, because my habit pattern has been reset. And there's this compound effect that happens over time. So I think not trying to go from where you are to where you want to be like overnight, that's where we really lose a lot of momentum. What we want to do is just get a little bit of momentum and start moving in the right direction and being real with yourself. So I wouldn't say try to, just everybody says like, just go take massive action. Just go take massive action. That's great. You can take massive action for a small period of time, but your thermostat's going to kick in. You have to very intentionally move your thermostat up, and you can move it way up. The best way to move it way up and keep it there is to get yourself in a room that has a different setting. That's the setting of the whole room. And you can't be down that low, and you've got to be up higher, and nobody's going to let you kick in your air conditioning. And so that's what I've been working on lately, is to figure out how we just constantly set this default that we have. And I think it's a little bit over time, just very small increments over time. And honestly, it's really seeing success before it happens. You have to really see it before it happens for you to take that action, consistent action. You can take the action for a small period of time, but you're eventually going to get frustrated, and you're going to see yourself as failing. and not see success to change your belief and change your actions. So you've got to see success before it happens. Like you have to visualize it, you have to know it, you have to believe it. And once you believe that it's like already happened, action is inevitable.
I love that. Bill, your time this evening, your knowledge, it has been such a gift. Thank you so much for sharing everything. I know in 2020, I attended Flip Hacking Live. That was a game changer for me. That definitely, do you mind telling us a little bit about that so people have sort of if they want to stay in touch with you or want to learn more about you or basically just get in a room and learn more from you and your team. Can you share a little bit about Flip Hacking Live, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So every October we have an event. If you were there in 2020, it was virtual. So we had a virtual experience. We have an in-person event now again. So we are in Orlando, Florida, October 13th, 14th, and 15th. I don't think actually many people know that date, and we just signed a contract. So October 13th, 14th, and 15th in Orlando. Same hotel we were at last year. It was an amazing event. We have 3 days that we talk about stuff like this. So a lot of our speakers, Luke was actually one of our speakers last year. It was really awesome to see him on stage, talk about his business and his dispositions process. And we do some really cool stuff there. It's 3 jam-packed days, kind of not early morning, but we go pretty late at night. And like I said, it's a family-friendly event. We really love to bring the right people. So if we are a value match, I would love to invite any of your audience to come see us. Our website is fliphackinglive.com. And you can find it there.
I love that. Thank you, Bill. And we do have a giveaway for our people who came this evening. We always do a giveaway, and I know you were very kind, Bill, and you sent us a book to give away, one of your books. So if you can give me a number between 1 and 90, then we will do a draw, or we will figure out. My amazing VA, Mary Beth, will help me figure out who attendee number X was, whatever your number is. And then we'll be able to send them out a copy of your book.
All right. I'm not looking at the screen. 21.
Perfect. Love it. Is that a basketball player you like, number 21?
No, it's just, it's one of the, you guys have Keno? Probably not. It's like there was always this like game. So you would pick like 10 numbers and you could fill them in and you could win prizes and stuff. So that was one of the numbers I picked, because when you turn 21, you could drink alcohol. So it's just a number that seems to be popular. 23 is the best basketball number of all time. So I could have picked that one. So I don't know who's number 21, but good luck.
Love it. Awesome. We will reach out. Thank you again, Bill. We're so honored to have had you with us, and really appreciate, you just sharing everything from your heart and what you have going on, and especially the insights and information directly from your brain. I feel like we could just, spend days listening to you.
Well, I appreciate it. And thank you everyone for hanging out with me with like a marketing rant. It really is something that I've been working on for the past, 6 months, probably trying to figure out how I can help the community. I've given a somewhat similar presentation one time before, and they were like, wow, we've never had somebody talk about why with marketing. So I hope you guys take it and do something with it in your own way. I think that's the most important thing for me, is if I can help like a couple people here anywhere in their life, it's important. So thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, it was our pleasure. And if we can help you, Bill, if you want to test some theories on us or whatever, don't hesitate to reach back out, and we'd be more than happy to support you and share our thoughts and feedback.
Awesome. I had a good time. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Have a great evening. We'll see you all again in a few weeks. Bye.